Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the NBA DFS Core Pick video for today, Monday, October 30th. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome, and second of all, this is how I will be structuring today's video. We'll be going over the injuries that are in play for today's main slate that could affect things overall. And then we'll go over to both DraftKings and FanDuel and talk about my core 5 picks for the day. So it's going to be one player at each position, so point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. Typically, I do a recap before the injuries, but since we have not had a video since Friday, we'll not be doing that part today. So without further ado, we're going to get right into the injuries for today's 11-game main slate. We have 3 games tipping off right at 7 o'clock Eastern time. So for the Chicago Bulls, we have Zach LaVine. He's technically, this is a game time decision, but he is probable to play. He did tweak his back 2 games ago. He looked really bad the first 2 games of the year, but apparently tweaking his back actually fixed his shot, and he had 51 points in his most recent game. So keep that in mind. Could be a very viable play on tonight's slate overall. And then on the Pacers side, they are all the way healthy at this point in time. Moving over to the Celtics, Quetta is listed as out for them at this point in time. That is a new one. It came up as of a couple minutes ago. And then for the Washington Wizards, Landry Shamet's listed as out. Daniel Gafford listed as questionable. If he's unable to go, probably see Mike Muscala get the start at center and could be an interesting paydown option there. One note for the Wizards is that Johnny Davis is at least available to play tonight to make his season debut. He missed the first couple games with an elbow sprain. Then we move over to the Brooklyn Nets. We got Nick Claxton, Cam Johnson out once again, so probably seeing what we saw the most recent game out of them. Thought Day'Ron Sharpe would play a couple more minutes than he actually ended up doing, but we saw a lot of Ben Simmons at center in that game, so we'll see what that looks like ultimately tonight. And then on the Charlotte Hornets side, James Bouknight, Miles Bridges, Cody Martin, and Frank Ntilikina all out once again, so no changes there whatsoever. Moving down to the Minnesota Timberwolves, we got Clark out once again, and the McDaniels is listed as questionable. We'll see if he's able to go tonight or not. If not, we probably see Nickeil Alexander-Walker get the start once again. Then for the Atlanta Hawks, Wesley Matthews is out once again, so no changes there. Moving over to the Portland Trail Blazers, we have Ish Wainwright listed as questionable. Does not really affect the rotation too much whatsoever. And then Anthony Simons is listed as out. He did ultimately end up having surgery on his thumb, so he'll be out for a couple of weeks at this point in time. For the Toronto Raptors, we have Christian Koloko listed as out once again. Precious Achiuwa is listed as doubtful tonight, so could help out the minutes for Jakob Poeltl. Probably see a couple extra minutes going to Chris Boucher tonight. And then OG Anunoby listed as questionable. He's been dealing with like some cramps, and I think he tweaked his ankle just a little bit in the other game too, so we'll see if he plays tonight or not. I'm kind of on the side of saying that he's probably not going to play once again, so we'll probably see Gary Trent in that starting lineup. Then we move down to the Golden State Warriors. I believe they're on the back-to-back, so we'll just wait and see if any more news pops up for them throughout the day. On the Pelican side, Jose Alvarado, Najee Marshall, and Trey Murphy are all out once again. So pretty much what we've seen out of the Pelicans so far this season. Then we move over to the Miami Heat, who were without Haywood Highsmith once again. Josh Richardson listed as doubtful, as well as Caleb Martin. And then they do get Kevin Love back most likely for this game, as he's probable to play with a shoulder injury. So pretty similar to what we've seen out of Miami most of this year outside of the game where they kind of rested a couple different players. And then on the Milwaukee Bucks side, this is a back-to-back, but Chris Middleton is expected to play. We'll see whether or not they sit someone like Giannis or Dame Lillard in this matchup on the back-to-back, but that will be something to pay attention to as the day moves along. Could open up a little bit of value there. And then we move over to the Detroit Pistons, who are going to be without Isaiah Livers, Monte Morris, and Bojan Bogdanovic once again. James Wiseman listed as probable to play, but he has yet to play a major part in their rotation so far this season, getting limited minutes at that. For the Oklahoma City Thunder, Jalen Williams, center, out once again, and then Kenrich Williams, been dealing with a back injury, is listed as questionable to play for tonight's game. Then we get down to the Dallas Mavericks, who are all the way healthy at this point in time. For the Memphis Grizzlies, Santi Aldama, Brandon Clark, Luke Kennard, and John Morant all out once again, so no major changes there. For the Utah Jazz, just Ochai Agbaji is listed as questionable to play. He's dealing with a knee contusion. We'll see if he plays or not tonight. Shouldn't make a big difference either way, though. And then for the Denver Nuggets, Cam Carr's out once again, and Jay Huff listed as questionable due to his rib injury, but probably not in the rotation either way. Last but not least, we have the Orlando Magic and the Los Angeles Lakers. For the Magic, Kevon Harris, listed as questionable, probably not in the rotation either way, though. Then for the Lakers, they're without Vanderbilt and Hood Schifino once again, so no real changes there to be had at this point in time. So pretty basic in terms of the injuries in play for tonight's slate. There'll be a couple that we're watching throughout. So the main ones we'll be watching probably just going to be Daniel Gafford and OG Anunoby. If anything else does pop up throughout the day, we'll leave it down in the comments, as well as those starting laps as they come out throughout the late afternoon and early evening for all these games. And then if there are any major changes to my core, we'll leave an updated core about 15 to 20 minutes prior to lock as a pin comment as well. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to DraftKings and talk about my core picks for today. So I am going to start off with the core picks today by saying there are not a lot of great values out there. A lot of guys that are going to project right around 5x. So if you don't like somebody that's in my core, you're going to obviously switch them out for somebody else. But we're going to start off at the point guard position with CJ McCollum. He's had a pretty good start to the season so far. He's $7,300. We're looking for 37 points out of him tonight. He's averaging over 40 on the season. Pretty good pace matchup tonight against the Golden State Warriors. I do like him for about 38 fantasy points tonight, so it looks like a pretty solid value there. Then at shooting guard, we're going to go with Cam Thomas. He's been off to a really hot start so far this year. $6,000, we're looking for 30 points out. And if you look at what he's done so far on the season, he's averaging about 46 fantasy points per game on the season, which is kind of ridiculous, but we saw a really good hot stretch out of him last season. He got the start in their most recent game. If he does that once again, if he's shooting the ball and he's getting the minutes, $6,000 is going to be too cheap of a price tag for him today. Do currently I'm projected for about 32 points, but he could blow that out of the water, and he's kind of one of the lone true values that I do expect to be pretty chalky on today's slate overall. Then we move down to small forward in Ausar Thompson for the Detroit Pistons. You can also play him at power forward as well, I believe. $5,500, so his price tag really hasn't changed too much this season so far. He's putting up good fantasy points per game on the season already, and he's not really scoring the ball that well. He's not shooting the ball that well so far. So if he comes out tonight and shoots the ball pretty well, does all the other production that he's been doing so far this season, where he's getting 31 points per game, looking for maybe 40 points out of him at that point in time. At $5,500, we're looking for 28 fantasy points out of him. Currently, I'm projected for about 30 tonight, but definitely does have that pretty strong upside for more. Could be a pretty interesting matchup for him against the Oklahoma City Thunder as well. Then at power forward, we're going with Kyle Kuzma at $7,400, looking for 37 points out of him. You know, one of those main pieces for the Washington Wizards, kind of the one risk tonight is that blowout factor versus the Boston Celtics, who are a very good team at that. Kuzma's averaging 38 fantasy points per game on the season, but you know, if this game is competitive, Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole probably going to be a big reason why. If you want to take shots on Poole, you can definitely do that as well. But I do like Kuzma tonight. Once again, we're looking for that 37 fantasy points out of him tonight. Currently having projected for about 39 at that. Then at center, we're going to go with Clint Capella, $5,800, just too cheap of a price tag at this point in time, looking for 29 fantasy points out of him. He's averaging just under 34 so far on the season. Currently, I'm projected for about 31, 32 tonight. Should be a pretty decent matchup against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Some people might shy away from it just a little bit because of Rudy Gobert, but I'm not too worried at this point in time. Probably another double-double for Clint Capella tonight, and looking like a really strong play at $5,800. And like I said, when we got into the core picks, not a lot of strong values out here today. A lot of guys that are going to project right around 5x, so looking more like a balanced build type of day. Not a lot of great value plays at this point in time. Obviously, that'll probably change as the day moves along. But if you go with the 5 players that I do have listed here, you'll have $18,000 remaining, $6,000 per player remaining. So if you want to take a shot on a value guy and pay up somewhere else, you can do that. Or if you want to take a little bit more balanced approach on today's slate, definitely a good way to approach it today overall. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to FanDuel and talk about my core picks over there as well. So once again, same thing I said on DraftKings, not a lot of standout plays today, not a lot of value plays, a lot of guys that are going to project right around 5x. So this is what I do have in terms of FanDuel. Take it with a grain of salt. Once again, if you don't like a certain player out of these 5, definitely can switch it out for somebody else. And as the day moves along, some of these guys could change as well as we get more news. But we're going to start off at the point guard position with Drew Holiday, $6,500, looking for 33 fantasy points out of him today. Essentially what he's been averaging so far on the season, very small game, very small sample size at that. It's a pretty favorable matchup today against the Washington Wizards, so I do like him quite a bit. Obviously, there is a little bit of risk at blowout, but even at $6,500, even if there's a blowout, he could still reach those fantasy points by the time we get there. Currently, I'm projected for about 33 fantasy points tonight. Then we're going to move down to shooting guard with Gary Trent. He's $4,800. Obviously, if OG Anunoby starts, probably not going to play Gary Trent, but at $4,800, we're only looking for about 24 fantasy points out. He's averaging about 22 so far on the season. If he starts, if he gets the minutes and his shots going down, going to look like a pretty good play overall. Currently, I'm projected for 25 fantasy points. It's a good matchup against Portland. And if his shot's going down, he's probably going to easily outscore this price tag. Then we're going to move down to small forward with Dorian Finney-Smith at $4,600. You could also play him at power forward. Looking for 23 fantasy points at him. He's averaging about 19.5 so far on the season. Keep in mind, he did not start that first game. Going against the Charlotte Hornets today should be a pretty good pace-up spot for him and this Brooklyn Nets team overall. So do like him quite a bit. Currently, I'm projected for right around that 23, 24 fantasy point mark. But you know, if he's out there, if he's getting 30-plus minutes, he could go over that as well. Then we move down to power forward with his teammate Ben Simmons. You could also play him at point guard if you really want to do so as well. $6,700, looking for 33, 34 fantasy points out of him. He's averaging over 37 so far on the season. First game didn't play a lot of minutes. Second game, he played kind of a point center role, which is a little bit weird when you say it like that, but saw a lot of minutes at that center position. But he's still acting as that main facilitator for Brooklyn, so I do like him quite a bit tonight. If he's getting over 30 plus minutes, he's going to pay off pretty easily at this price tag. Like I said, you're looking for 33, 34 points at him. Currently have him projected modestly for 35, but definitely has a ton of upside in a pretty good pace up spot as well. And then last but not least, we're going back to Clint Capella once again, $6,300. Looking for 31, 32 fantasy points out of him tonight. Currently have him projected for that. He's averaging 32 so far on the season. Like I said, on DraftKings, going against Minnesota, some people might shy away from it because of Rudy Gobert. Not really too worried there. Still think it's probably another spot where Clint Capella could get another double-double tonight. And definitely do like the upside that he could have, if he gets a couple extra rebounds, gets a couple blocks here and there as well. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do have listed here on the FanDuel side, you'll have $31,100 remaining, just under $7,800 per player. So a little bit more room and flexibility. If you want to take that more balanced approach, you can definitely do that. If you want to pay up for a couple guys, pay down in a couple other different spots on the FanDuel side, you can definitely do that as well. But with that being said, these are my core 5 picks for both FanDuel and DraftKings for today, October 30th. As always, if you have any questions related to NBA DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, be sure to let me know your favorite play on tonight's slate. As always, I'll be listing all the injury updates throughout the day, as well as the starting lineups as they do come out throughout the night, so that you are best prepared heading into lock. And then also, if there are any updates whatsoever to the core, we'll leave it as a pinned comment about 15 to 20 minutes prior to lock. If there's no changes whatsoever, I'll just put there's no changes to the core at this point in time. But with that being said, if you are new to my channel, checking it out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now it is Monday through Friday, NBA DFS. CFL DFS season just ended, so hopefully you guys had some good luck in that if you were paying attention to that as well. And then I'll be trying to do a little bit more NFL DFS content in the coming weeks. Since I will be having a little bit more time opening up, I'll try to do maybe like a first look, maybe on Wednesdays or so. And then hopefully kind of a core pick or looking at my player pool probably on Friday as well. So hopefully that's something you're into. No, I haven't been quite as able to make as many NFL DFS videos as I probably would have liked to, but definitely be sure to check those out. Be sure to check out the shorts that I do post up from time to time, whether it is fantasy football related, NFL news related, or NBA related as well. And then with that being said, if you're interested in prop betting, if you're brand new to sports betting, be sure to check out the links down in the description below for Parlay Play, Prize Picks, and BetUS. If you are a new user and first time depositor, you can get some pretty good bonuses over there. Helps you out a little bit as you get started in that process. Helps me out a little bit on the side as well. Be sure to look out for some of my picks posted up on Twitter from time to time at Coach Craig Sport. And be sure to check out the crew over at the Sports Affiliation as well for some of their picks when it comes to NBA bets as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have at this point in time. Definitely appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in NBA DFS tonight.